Founded in 2001, the Shanghai Cooperation Organization has grown into the world's largest regional organization, a Eurasian political, economic and security alliance with the participation of 26 countries and a combined economic output of nearly $30 trillion. Over the past 5 years, trade between China and the other SCO members has surged, hitting a record $512.4 billion last year. This past weekend, leaders gathered in the northern Chinese port city of Tianjin to outline the blueprint for the bloc's development over the next decade. In his address, President Xi Jinping laid out the bloc's accomplishments and a vision for the future. We have more in this report.
At the largest ever SCO Summit held in Tianjin, these global leaders achieved many fruitful outcomes. Chinese President Xi Jinping proposed the Global Governance Initiative for the first time. The landmark initiative focuses on 5 key areas, including upholding sovereign equality, adhering to the international rule of law, practicing genuine multilateralism, adopting a people-oriented approach, and prioritizing action-oriented cooperation. President Xi said the SCO is playing a more active role in enhancing global governance and fostering a more stable and prosperous world.
I think that was an important idea because it's a statesman-like approach, how to rally the whole region together in the spirit of solidarity and cooperation. That was the big message coming out, and this is very important that this message by Xi Jinping and the SCO Forum.
As the world faces increasing challenges from unilateralism and protectionism, no country can solve these challenges alone. President Xi called on all SCO participating countries to expand their collaborations in the security, economic, scientific, educational, and cultural sectors to tackle these challenges.
SCO is a great platform to launch this global governance initiative, set a new direction for all the countries to work actually together, to consult to each other together, and also to develop together.
After Laos became the latest dialogue partner of the SCO, the organization has grown to include 27 participating countries, making it the world's largest regional organization. With cooperation spanning over 50 fields, security has always been a top priority for the SCO.
SCO member states have initiated efforts to improve existing mechanisms and establish new ones for cooperation among competent authorities in countering threats such as terrorism, separatism, extremism, drug trafficking. A resolution adopted at this year's summit is expected to inject new impetus into regional security cooperation.
The SCO is expected to advance equal, inclusive, and people-centered economic globalization. That is why over 3,000 journalists from around the world came to cover the fruitful outcomes of the summit in Tianjin.
So we will see the implementation of the joint initiatives, of joint projects within the SCO bloc, and I think it's very important because it will then foster not only economy growing, but also, like we are saying, people-to-people ties, collaborations, and cooperation on different levels, from the high level to the grassroots.
This SCO Tianjin Summit has concluded, opening a new chapter at a pivotal moment in global dynamics. Chinese President Xi Jinping reaffirmed that China will work closely with international partners to revitalize multilateralism, improve global governance, and strengthen a multipolar world order through concrete action. Wu Lei, CGTN, Tianjin.
There is much to talk about. Later, we'll talk with Vijay Prashad and Anton Fedyashin. But we begin in China with Zoon Ahmed Khan. She's a research fellow at the Center for China and Globalization. And Victor Ga is chair professor at Soochow University. Thank you to both of you for joining us. Victor, the SCO represents half the world's population and a quarter of the world's economy. This is what the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres said about the importance of the SCO. Let's listen.
It represents a large percentage of the world population, and it is inserted in one of the most dynamic areas of the global economy. I believe that we need to build a multipolar world. We need to build a world in which all areas of the world all cultures, all religions, all civilizations are able to work together. And in the efforts to build a multipolar world, the countries of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization are essential.
So, Victor, talk to us about the significance and importance of the SCO in terms of President Xi Jinping's global governance initiative.
Thank you very much for having me. First of all, let's congratulate the crowning success of the SCO Summit in Tianjin. It's a great success, and I think the joint declaration issued at the SCO Summit is a reflection that this success belongs to all the participating members. I think President Xi Jinping emphasized that we need to really promote multilateralism for the development of the multipolar world. And this is crucially important because there is one big country in the world which pretends to be the sole polarity in the world, and it wants to dictate terms to all the other countries. Many times it holds a gun at the head of other countries, try to impose its will onto the other countries. Now, I don't think any other country wants to live under that kind of a dictate from any country, especially if there is a gun held at their head. And I don't think SCO members want to accept that kind of unipolarity as the dominant theme in the world of today. Therefore, I think the timing of this SCO summit cannot be better because it really provides mankind with a choice. Either you want to go back to the rule of the jungle, or you want to continue onto the path of rule of law and democracy and consensus building, for example, and collective efforts to promote common prosperity. And all countries, big or small, will be treated as an equal. So I think the crowning success of the SCO summit is really an affirmation of a new world order to come.
Zoon, the SCO member states have adopted plans to strengthen cooperation in these particular sectors, in security, the economy, as well as cultural exchanges. How do you see the Global South take a more meaningful role, a bigger role in global affairs in the future, in the years ahead?
You know, firstly, Anand, I have to completely echo what Victor Gao just said, that the world, the global governance system, the international law and the UN Charter that we all agreed upon is essentially multipolar. It recognizes the equality, the equal rights and equal, rights of every country in the world, big or small, to participate in the system and to set the agenda under the UN system. That said, we have seen a lot of inequality, we have seen unfair treatment, injustice, and the SCO, like other organizations that are emerging from the global south or global majority, really stands for, reigniting that movement, our collective right to be the ones who are deciding what is better for us and becoming more equal participants, not just recipients in a world that is unipolar. So we are multilateralizing in the process, and the SCO is a very important part of it. That said, what the SCO gets incredibly right is that interconnection, the link between security, economy, and prosperity. The SCO started by, the idea of addressing the three evil forces: separatism, extremism, and terrorism. But increasingly now, we are discussing how can economic opportunities be realized in the region. The SCO Secretariat is regularly enabling businesses, enabling business delegations, enabling investments, enabling other areas such as development-related issues that countries are facing. The SCO has consistently supported the SDGs, and all countries, member countries and other SCO family, whether they're dialogue partners or observers, their rights and their capacity to work with the region to address the development challenges that they face. And I think now with increasing focus and with more mechanisms being established, we are going to see more momentum being achieved in that direction. So definitely, the SCO is trying to create synergy in a region that has had historic precedent. But for many years, we were not able to connect as well. But now in the last 24 years, with the 25th, Heads of State Summit, we see that already a lot of achievements have been made. We are re-understanding this identity, which is crucial for us to really work together as countries and to create the connectivity that is essential for half of the world's people, essentially.
Victor, President Xi said that the SCO should shoulder greater responsibilities for international peace, for stability. It wants to promote new types of relationships based on mutual respect, based on equality. How does that SCO vision empower the Global South?
Well, first of all, it's true that SCO and its members are truly examples of the Global South member states, for example. And I think SCO has become more and more popular, gaining more and more recognition in the world, and has become a platform whereby all the SCO member states can really make their collective voices known to the world on many important questions and issues and challenges facing mankind. That means SCO has fast becoming a platform for the Global South as a whole. And there are other member states of the Global South which want to become full members of the SCO. So I think in the coming years, the membership of SCO will be further increased significantly. And SCO will take on more and more flesh, in a sense, onto the skeleton established about 24 years ago, focusing on fighting against terrorism, extremism, and radicalization, for example. And now it becomes more and more focusing on what really matters for all the member states. That is maintaining stability, keeping peace, and promoting development.
Zoon, leaders at the summit, they issued a statement expressing strong support for the multilateral trading system. Trade between China and SCO member states, as I pointed out, have reached just over $512 billion. That was last year. How does the SCO provide an alternative trading system, especially when in the face of the sort of tariff regime that has been implemented by President Trump and the growing protectionist barriers that we are now seeing?
Honestly, Anand, in the end, the one thing that all SCO members, and I will say Global South at large, we have in common is that we want multilateralism to be what we say is true multilateralism, not multilateralism disguised to create a zero-sum approach and to, divide us versus them. And what the SCO is doing is by keeping, these the linkages open. The SCO has constantly supported international law. The SCO has supported and taken concrete actions to ensure that member countries and other countries that want to be participants in any way are able to benefit from our collective vision and to address the practical issues that we face. And I think, like you said, we have right now a hegemonic power that is trying to coerce and creating a situation that is anti-globalization and that is completely against what we believe are our pragmatic rights to develop. In the end, all that matters is what can we deliver to our people. And by creating a platform like the SCO, what the SCO is really doing is giving countries in the region an alternative mechanism, an alternative reality. We also know that the SCO Development Bank has been established. We know that open trade is key on the agenda. So for countries that in a world that did not have alternative institutions or ideas, may have been coerced in the current scenario. But now we know that we can look towards the region for opportunities. And that is definitely a trend we are seeing globally. I think the developing countries have a higher percentage of the global GDP today. We have dynamic youth. We have ideas, we have solutions. And now, like the SCO, we have platforms to exchange with each other and to actually tangibly tackle the issues that we face.
Zoon Ahmed Khan, Victor Gar, thanks to both of you for being with us.
Thank you very much.
Russian President Vladimir Putin and India's Narendra Modi attended the SCO Summit. For more on that, we turn to Anton Fedyashin. He's a Russian and European affairs analyst and history professor at American University. And Vijay Prashad heads the Tricontinental Institute for Social Research. Thanks to both of you for being with us. Vijay Prashad, India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi was in China for the first time in 7 years. And both Modi and President Xi said that their countries are partners, not rivals. It does signal a change in direction in this relationship, especially in the face of the tariff regime that we see now being implemented by President Trump. What does a win-win scenario look like for these two countries, India and China?
Well, I think it was quite an incredible moment to have Mr. Modi go to Tianjin to have a meeting with Xi Jinping, to have the photo opportunity with Xi Jinping and Vladimir Putin, and have those pictures shared by Mr. Modi and by the Indian External Affairs Ministry. That itself is a really interesting message that India sent out there. I think it's not just the statement that we are, partners, not rivals. I think that's a very important statement. Don't want to set that aside. But it's not just that. When Xi Jinping said that we have four, planks for our advancement of our dialogue between the two countries, Mr. Modi didn't reject that. He took it seriously. But I want to say that this was not a one-off situation. India and China have been opening up in the last year. They've increased visas on both ends. India has eased up its visa restrictions against Chinese travelers into India and so on. I think we're on a path to a certain kind of dialogue, which I'm very hopeful about, because I think it's a long time coming. India-China relations were at a real ebb, and they seem to be improving, and I feel a little hopeful about that.
Anton, Chinese-Russian ties, political and economic ties, they've grown deeper, they've grown more diverse as well. In fact, if we look at the trade numbers, in 2024, bilateral trade reached a record of nearly $245 billion. They've also embarked on joint projects, these two countries. They've linked their payment systems, and we see products from Russia going to China, agricultural products, cars going from China to Russia. How important is the SCO for Russia at a time when the United States and its allies in Europe are doing their level best to try and isolate Russia?
SCO is the continent-wide security organization that the Russians are now putting all of their effort into maintaining, into diversifying, into growing. They know that it is a useful tool to maintain political stability in the countries that surround them. The Russians sent troops into Kazakhstan in late 2021 when there was an attempt at a coup d'etat there. So regional organizations, being the Collective Security Treaty, which was actually invoked in Kazakhstan, or the SCO, which may be invoked in the future, is essential from the Russian perspective. And this becomes even more important given that NATO has already stated publicly on multiple occasions that it intends to expand into the Indo-Pacific region, without specifying exactly how a Euro-Atlantic organization will operate there. But the statements have already been made, and I think the Russians are simply waiting for that kind of attitude to foment, to help grow SCO ties, as both the Chinese and the Indians look around and see the West beginning to encroach into their areas of strategic importance.
Vijay Prashad, India and China have the 5th and 2nd largest economies in the world, respectively. The IMF says Indian growth, economic growth, is expected to remain above 6% in the coming years. But there is one shortcoming for India. It does not enjoy good relationships with its neighbors. I'm thinking of countries like Pakistan, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Afghanistan. China, on the other hand, does have good relations with these countries. So I'm wondering, to what extent can the SCO act as a bridge, a vehicle for India to improve its relationships with its neighbors?
Well, look, anything that is going to help India improve relationships with its neighbors, and by the way, you left out Nepal. India does not have excellent relations with Nepal either, with all the neighbors. So anything that will improve the situation is good not only for the neighborhood, but in fact for India, for India's attempt to alleviate the poverty question, to increase trade. India's bilateral trade with the South Asian countries is abysmal. I mean, Indian trade with Pakistan can improve by tenfold, by 20-fold. So anything that improves this is important. I would like to say something about the SCO as a development organization, not just security. It's pretty interesting that at Tianjin, there was a discussion about creating an SCO development bank. I found that interesting for a couple of reasons. Number one, India is already a part of the new development bank, which is anchored in Shanghai, headed by former Brazilian President Dilma Rousseff. India has been playing a sort of duplicitous game with the BRICS Bank, not really allowing it to flourish and so on. Why should India get involved in another bank? Well, because all the Asian countries have a problem with the Asian Development Bank based in Manila, which is basically indexed to the International Monetary Fund. If the SCO Bank is able to become a new Asian Development Bank, that could be interesting for regional trade in South Asia. If it were, for instance, to come in to fund infrastructure creation between India and Nepal or India and Bangladesh, that would be very welcome. Very welcome capital by India, particularly at a time when it looks like Mr. Modi's preferred plutocrats have made an erroneous bet. Mr. Adani was hoping for the Middle East-Europe corridor. That may not happen. Might have to settle for a India-Bangladesh or India-Nepal corridor going up into China. Let's see if that pivot can take place. But yes, indeed, for India, the SCO could play a really serious role for improving relations in the neighborhood.
Anton, President Xi said that at present the world is undergoing a century-long change at an accelerated pace, and unstable, uncertain, and unpredictable factors have increased significantly. He also said that the Cold War mentality, hegemonism, and protectionism continue to haunt the world. How can the SCO change that or counter that?
Security, basically ensuring that there is non-interference from outside powers, especially those on other continents, in Eurasian affairs, as the Asians and the Eastern Europeans, if we're talking about Russia, of course, and the Middle East, begin to create networks of trade and networks of trading, as in paying for trade, that are immune to Western sanctions. It's really the weaponization of Western financial systems and Western trade networks that explains the rapidity with which the SCO has grown and with which the BRICS have grown. And I think the SCO and the BRICS will actually develop sort of in partnership. There will be a symphony, an overlap, one being more economically oriented. But now, as Vijay absolutely correctly pointed out, there's talk about a bank associated with the SCO. I don't think there are going to be very clear dividing lines. I think that Eurasia has finally figured out that the way to prosperity and stability is continental integration without the United States playing the head of the orchestra, and the Europeans doing whatever they are told from Washington, which often, by the way, as we've seen in the past literally month, goes against their own interests and against the interests of their trade with India or China or any other Asian country.
Vijay, what do you make of those comments from President Xi, where he said that, the Cold War mentality has dominated international relations for such a long time, and it's time to change?
Well, look, frankly, the Cold War mentality is what keeps the UN Security Council unable to act. I mean, look at the situation in Palestine. There's absolute paralysis at the UN Security Council level. One way to democratize the UN Security Council, and by the way, I'm saying this right before the United States, is not going to allow Palestinian delegates to come to the UN General Assembly meeting. So one way to democratize the United Nations functions is to regionalize security at a much faster pace, to allow the African Union's Peace and Security Council to take action on the African continent, to allow the SCO, in fact, to become the real regional mechanism for security rather than the UN Security Council. Let the SCO come in to arbitrate, let's say, conflicts in the South China Sea and so on. Why should we bring in NATO? Why should US ships conduct freedom of navigation exercises in Asian waters when the United States hasn't even ratified the UN Treaty of the Seas, on the basis of which it conducts these freedom of navigation exercises? Why not allow that to be the ambit of the Asian Security Organization, have a Latin American security organization like maybe CELAC playing that function rather than the OAS, which is effectively a Washington organization? Let's regionalize security or continentalize it and not allow it to be paralyzed by Cold War thinking at the UN Security Council in New York.
Anton, the world order that we have seen that emerged out of World War II and were based largely on institutions that were created by the United States and dominated by the United States and its West European allies. But do you get the sense that we've reached a point now where that is going to change?
Yes, it's already changing, and the process began in the early 2000s. By the mid-2000s, even popular intellectuals such as Fareed Zakaria were already publishing books about the post-Western world, but things were developing very slowly because the West had, especially the United States, of course, the U.S. was systemically absolutely dominant. But with the war in Iraq, with the financial crisis, with the invasion of Libya and the implosion of a stable state in North Africa, and then, of course, with Arab Spring and with the Ukraine crisis, the United States has gone out of its way to really destroy its own position as the world's leading power. And so the process that we're seeing now is simply catalyzed by all the crises that are going on the planet. But I see it as irreversible, I see it as tectonic, and I see it as a much broader historical phenomenon, not just a changeover from the post-World War II world order, but a changeover from the period of 400 years, 500 years actually, ever since Columbus landed in the New World, and the Europeans really sort of dictated the melody and the beat to which the planet moved, for better and for worse. Those days are long gone, and now non-Western players are staking a claim in the rules by which the geopolitical and geoeconomic game is being played.
Okay, and that is where we have to leave it. Anton Fedyashin, Vijay Prashad, thanks to both of you for being with us. That is it for this edition of The Heat. I'm Anand Naidu in Washington.